Welcome, John Stevenson, to episode 33 of The Missing Link in Your Healing. Loretta and I started this podcast saying we would never have a guest on unless they were a person who had self-healed. But as life would have it, John Stevenson flowed towards me through our connection on our Loretta and I's podcast group on Facebook, because he is also an Alexander teacher and practitioner, as was Gary Ramsey. So I think Gary's doing his work out there, even though he's not here on the earth with us anymore, John. So you and I connected, and we just started having a conversation, and you sent me a 13-minute message on Messenger. And every single thing you said in that just resonated so deeply with me, and we're so interconnected with the work that Loretta and I do and put out, but it also added to it and brought another dimension, and in our language, a kind of missing link. So after I'd listened to it about 5 times, I felt very excited about asking you to bring that message to our audience. And the astounding thing about this message is that it encapsulates almost every episode we've put out. It encapsulates this journey of healing, physical, mental, and spiritual. But it goes beyond what we've put out. So we are going to be covering, when I hand over to John shortly, everything from fractals to cells in our bodies, to boundaries in our body and out, the nervous system, fight and flight, balance in our bodies and out, the healing paradox, and self-love. So it is so all-encompassing, and the magnificence of this, John, in the way you brought it, is how you weaved it all together. So thank you. And I decided to call this episode, "Why is Self-Love Like Riding a Bicycle?" And what the heck has this got to do with your health and healing? Because we're all about health and healing. So for those of you that sometimes switch off after a few minutes, hang in. I'm telling you now, this could be freaking amazing. So I'm going to introduce John, and then I'm going to hand over to him to bring that beautiful magic carpet, the 13 minutes. So John is a United Kingdom-based transformational coach. And true health, he says, is not simply the absence of illness, but it's a vibrant state of harmony between mind, body, and spirit. Yes. So he provides his clients with tools, techniques, and insights that help them unlock their body's natural ability to heal and thrive. Yes. The yeses are from Loretta and I. Yes, we can be our own healers, but how do we unlock that natural ability? So John draws both from his own experiences of overcoming personal and health challenges. So he does have that story, but he is also trained in the Alexander technique and in energy alignment method, the energy alignment method. Alexander, just to recap, is a method that teaches individuals to recognize and change habitual patterns of movement and posture. This promotes greater ease and comfort in the body and in all of our daily activities. Energy alignment method is a practice that focuses on releasing negative energy and emotions to achieve a balanced and empowered life. So by integrating these two, John offers a comprehensive approach that addresses both physical and energetic blockages. And there is no doubt in the mind of Loretta and I that for us to become our own healers, that what John is going to bring today could possibly be a huge missing link. So I just love what you call your work. It just is so exciting. It's called Rediscover Freedom. And isn't it just encapsulates the whole thing? And all John's connections and details to his website and his Facebook page will be in the show notes at the end. So you can have a look there if you want to connect with John. So I just want to quickly tell John's story in his own words. I'm going to paraphrase it from his website because it's powerful. And it was the catalyst that got John onto this path of doing this amazing work. So it was one moment in time, as life has it sometimes, that changed John's life. Imagine this, he says. You're struggling to breathe. You are gripped by fear. And then suddenly, boom, relief. That was me, he said, lying on a gurney in an ambulance. A paramedic had inserted a cannula into the back of my hand, and moments later, I felt an icy liquid traveling through my veins. Instantly, my asthma disappeared. However, goosebumps. When I looked, the cannula had never been connected to anything. So in that moment, I realized the truth. My mind had done this. I had imagined the freezing liquid flowing through me, and my body had responded instantly by healing itself. This moment changed my life, John says. It showed me the untapped power we all have, the ability to shift our reality and take control of our health with just one thought. You said you've also shifted all your depression and anxiety with this. So I'm going to hand over to John now. And from everything Loretta and I've put out, this is the truth. It's the essence of the healing journey on all levels. And it's simple, but it's not always easy. So, John, we both love this integration that you bring. And we all know that healing is about not fixing what is broken, and you endorse that as well, but reconnecting with this innate wisdom and energy in you. And your unique Alexander-based perspective that you shared with me is absolute gold. So with that, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you. Yes, I think I'll start sort of the very beginning of, there's various things I want to talk about, and Loretta will keep me on track, but it's all about being in balance. But we need some concept to understand what balance is and what happens. And the first thing I want to talk about is we're sort of fractal. Everything what happens in the cell can be repeated in muscles, in our bodies, in our society, in the world. And basically, very simply put, we have a boundary and then something happens within that boundary, all the way up to the universe, down to the little cells, and inside the cells, the components within the cells. So, and we all these entities react to two things. They either thrive or die. So if they're well fed, they'll thrive. If they're challenged by something, then they'll wilt and die. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to keep it very simple because I want to be very quick about this. So that's a fractal way of life if you think about it. Also, we have a balance. So there's lots of balances. I talk about being on a push bike and learning to ride. Some things are really hard to learn, like riding a bike when you're a child. If you think back, grazes and cries and tantrums, moving from a tricycle to a bicycle, down to one stabilizer, and then off you go. And then if you get really good, you might go on a unicycle, and that's another challenge. But generally, we just need to be in balance. So balancing on a bike, or balancing on a knife edge, I've wrote about as well, is the skill to get on with life. Because once you got on your bike, you can actually go wherever you want to go, and using that as a metaphor for life. So what knocks us off balance? There's lots of things. There's these built-in effects. We have fight and flight and nurture. So there's a balance on that as well. So what happens when we go into these various modes of fight, flight, and fear and joy? We produce different proteins. because we need to protect and repair. So if you're stuck too long in fight, flight, or whatever the modes are, if you're stuck too long, then you'll overwhelm the system and produce too many proteins for your body, and you'll damage your body. And it's true for, if you're too happy, you'll produce all your happy proteins. I'm being very simple because I can't remember at the moment. So you'll create those and have an overload of those, and that will damage you. So the secret is to be in balance. So your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system are only called when there's a need, not a need that you think about you need, like, oh, I've just got a nasty email, and you go into fight and flight and go and hide, and then you create the proteins that to protect you from that fight and flight. So it's actually coming back to now and being in balance. So a lot of people, another dimension you think about, hopefully I'm keeping on track, Antoinette. Yeah, it's all about being in balance, like I say. So that's one dimension. The other dimension is time. And people get, if you're depressed and anxious, if you're depressed, you're probably thinking about the past and replaying it into now, and it's producing things what don't serve you. And then the proteins come up and you get an unbalanced, I've lost my track. So you have overproduction of particular proteins. So the secret is being in balance and not knowing anything, because we don't need to know any of this. It's only because the scientists have done the experiment and discovered what happens. But inside us, our body knows what it needs to do. And it's getting away from what we think we need to do and allow our body to do what it needs to do. And please interject, Antoinette, if I'm getting away from the track. Yeah, so it's noticing that balance, and there's lots and lots of different dimensions of that balance. And
John, maybe at this point, before you go further, sorry, you talked about the fractal thing. So is every single cell in our body, every muscle, every part of our body has a purpose and a life, okay? And
yes, right, thank you.
every cell has a membrane, every muscle has a skin, every body has a skin, and so it goes on to our families and our countries and even the world. You said we have boundaries. So it's important to operate in those boundaries. So I'm going to let you speak to this, but I actually paraphrased what you said because it was so amazing. So if the cell is happy, because that's where the imbalance starts and where disease starts, if we can bring this back to physical health, because that's what we focus on. So if a cell is happy and it gets fed the right stuff, the nutrients, and the boundaries allow the correct things in and keep the bad things out, if that makes sense, to have the balance where it's a healthy cell so we don't end up getting cancer. So the normal course of events, we would say, is we allow nourishing things in, and what doesn't nourish us should not come in. So on a cellular body level, you were talking about proteins, I think, and you talked about a cupboard. There's a storehouse, a cupboard, let's say. So you can go to the cupboard and you can pull out from that cupboard what you need to nourish your body and your cells, or to punish them. So, and then I just want to go on to say how you link that to the nervous system. So if you could explain that to us, like,
right, thank you.
What happens? Yeah. So if you could just explain to us briefly what the nervous system consists of and how all of this relates to that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so thank you for reminding me. Yeah, so we all know about genes, and there's another thing called gene expression. And if you making it very simple, the genes is a store cupboard, it's a supermarket, or whatever you want to think about it. And a gene expression is your shopping list or a recipe. And what happens when you go into the sympathetic nervous system and your fight and flight and protecting your boundaries, then your gene expression will change to pull out what you need to protect your boundaries. And if we keep...
So can I ask you, Raja, what do you mean by protecting our boundaries? Are you talking about that animalistic brain wiring we have that tries to keep us protected and safe and takes us into fight and flight to protect?
Yes. So so you'll create the proteins to enable you to survive. So you go to the boundaries and protect. So you need to be more aware. Your eyes dilate. You shut down your stomach. Like if you take dogs for a walk, they clear their bowels, and because they're getting into that, looking around the environment and being aware, and also to make them light so they can run around. And lots of the internal organs shut down for a while because they go into pause. So if you just keep your sympathetic nervous system firing all the time, your organs will stop functioning because you're putting the resources somewhere else. Does that make sense, Antoinette?
What you mean by sympathetic nervous system, and the other one is the automatic? What?
Yeah. So the other one is the parasympathetic nervous system. So I always see the sympathetic is sympathetic to the environment, and it sends resources to the environment, to the boundaries, to the environment. So it notices what's going on, and the parasympathetic is the ones that will actually nurture and repair you. And what we can't do on the autonomic nervous system is have the parasympathetic nervous system firing at the same time as your sympathetic nervous system firing. So you only have one on at any one time. But if we linger too long in one of those states, then we overload with the proteins we overload the proteins what we're delivering, and that harms us, and then we get cancers, etc. And it's valid for both sides. If you're too zen, you might overload your organs with putting too much proteins in. Then again, if you're in your sympathetic and your fight and flight, then you'll be overloading those proteins. So the important thing is to come back to neutral, come back to being in balance, where you can actually...
So I wonder, I'm going to keep on interjecting. I know it's irritating for you, but this is very, very important what you've just said, because Loretta and I've talked a lot about fight and flight and that fear response and how it is a reptilian brain thing, and actually we wired that way. And we've talked a lot about how it affects our health. And we have talked about other stuff, but not in the way you do. So what the gold here lies in you saying, we know about fight and flight and how bad it is and how it's creating health issues. And we know that we're often in that space when we're not meant to be, because we're not being chased by lions anymore. So it needs to operate at times because it's there to keep us safe. It's there to keep that boundary for us. So we need it. We can't just get rid of it and be too zen. But the part you brought that I have never really heard the way you said it before, so I'm going to summarize it and then you can tell me if it's accurate, is that we also can't be too much in the opposite, which is the sympathetic. We can't be too zen, too healthy, exercising too much, trying to self-love too much. I mean, this is groundbreaking stuff. Probably not for you, because this is obviously an Alexander thing and it's a lived thing for you. But for some of us, I listened to your message 8 times, because this for me was, we've been so socialized, conditioned, spiritualized, and self-help, whatever, has brought us to that place of, if we want to be healthy and peaceful and all of that, we have to be more in Zen, and we must be very healthy eaters, and we must be fit. And all of that stuff is true. The food is important. The self-love is important. The exercise is important. But this bike ride, the balance that you bring, is that we can't be in either. We can't be in fight and flight or what you call the rest and restore, the sympathetic. Is that right? We can't be in either of those too much. That is dangerous. So can you speak maybe a little bit more to that? Because this is big.
Yes. So it's important to understand, to go back a little bit. Obviously we know fight and flight, and it's there to help us survive, which is really good. But once the danger's gone, we can turn all that off and then return to balance. But if you're really stuck over the fight and flight and fearful all the time, it's very hard to get into balance. So you need to go over to the other side and learn what Zen's all about. And then you have a choice of being Zen and really present and doing being really present, or then you can go into the fight and flight. So you can, your hysteresis, and I mentioned on the chat I sent to you, that we have we're like a thermostat, and you can set your central heating to 20 degrees, and the heater, whatever you heat, the boiler, will come in when it's 18 degrees and then go off at 22 degrees. And it's quite happily. And we do that all our lives. And that's another thought of the balance, is we just stay in a nice steady state. And if your steady state is quite low, so if the Hawkins scale of emotions, if you're down at the bottom, you just go up one or two and then down another one. So if you fight, I've got it here, so I'll just
give us a few examples, John, of because the next thing I had on for you that you spoke about was it's all about regulating our frequencies through tuning.
Yes,
and these are high and lower frequencies, and it's basically about the balance between regulating your frequencies, the higher and lower frequencies. So the Hawkins work is about these frequencies. Am I right? So can you just mention a few of them?
Yeah. So we have the frequencies, and like there's the love, joy, and down at the bottom there's apathy and grief. And what a lot of people do, they have a top and bottom to this, so they are in balance, but they're skewed in balance, if you understand. And it's about raising that awareness to be in balance, whatever that means, to be who you are and happy with that, and then having that skill of being present. And then the Hawkins scale disappears, by the way, because once you're present, which you probably noticed yesterday, you're in no man's land. So when you do this work, you actually become super present, and it's very, very hard to get on and do something. And that's the next trick, the next step is to be present in activity. And the balance is all what I've said already is good to know, but it doesn't really matter because it's so powerful just being present. And I think this is being present is self-love, and it's all about finding that love for yourself. And then once you've got that, then it just emanates everywhere. And I think, Antoinette, it might be a time to demonstrate this if you're happy.
Well, I think let's do that just now, but I just want to contextualize what you're saying, because I know you're not a bypasser, but sometimes statements like it's all about self-love, people can go, well, everyone's saying that, but I still feel shit, So when we first started communicating, you said it's all about self-love, it's all about self-love, and self-love is easy, but it's also very, very hard, and it's a lifetime's journey to be able to, and constant practice self-awareness. It starts with knowledge, then self-awareness, and then practice all the time. As when we start learning to ride a bike, to be able to get to the point where we get on a bike, and no matter how rocky it is or where we're going or how hilly it is, we pretty much stay on that bike. And if we lose our balance, we're going to fall over, and it could be not so great. So the practice, as you said, only takes a millisecond. Because you have a choice in every single moment. Do I set my boundaries, as in stay in fight and flight, like somebody sent me a message, like happened to me yesterday? Actually, someone sent me a message, someone close to me, telling me how terrible I am and what an awful person I am. And it seriously knocked me off my bike, to the point that John ended up doing a balancing with me after we finished recording, but we decided to record again today. So what I wasn't able to do with that message is I let it take my nervous system and my whole being into the fight and flight, which, as John describes it, is that's a boundary issue. It's like, this is not okay for me. This is terrible, but is it true what she's saying? And then all this inner stuff starts happening where you start doubting yourself, and then the next minute you're angry with her. I'm just giving my own example. And then it's like, oh, well, she's just a drunkard. And then it's like, no, but what she said is probably true. You must take ownership. So all of that has got me in this this fight and flight, and there's actually nothing to flee from. There's no lion. My sister just said something to me that was quite nasty. So what? But my reaction to it was pretty extreme, and I know why. But the work John brings is, if you've trained enough on the bike and you balanced enough, at the point when that message comes and you go automatically into protection mode, fight and flight, you then, when you've done enough of this work, quite quickly can find the balance to self-love, which would be the opposite of that, to forgiveness. And what you said is, when you're in judgment, when you're in non-forgiveness, when you're in criticizing, you are not in balance. And if you're not in balance mentally and psychologically like that, your body's not in balance. And I can feel it in my body now. So the trick that John can do, and shared with me, that he's been practicing for a very long time, is he can then switch to forgiveness, and mostly self-forgiveness. She said, I love that. And to self-love. And that doesn't mean bypassing that very hard feeling, if I understand what you say. It means I can go, ouch, that really hurt. And ouch, maybe some of it is true. I need to look at myself. And ouch, that presses all my unconscious stuff and my past trauma stuff. But I know that now. So, and I felt it. Now I have the choice in a nanosecond to switch to the self-love. But to be able to do, because if we don't do that, John, what you're saying is our body ends up getting very, very sick. And that's why I've had a lot of physical issues in my life, because a person with a mind like mine, and not everybody has, but a lot of people do, we don't find it that easy to stay balanced on the bike, even after 8 years of practice. So it's about, how would people get there to the point where they can, in a nanosecond, get back on the bike, John? What is one tip you can give people practically who aren't where you are 15 years down the line?
Yes, right. There are a few ways, but my favorite way is actually knowing that obviously we're all here, and we've all got a body, and we've all got joints and muscles. And I won't go into the detail about that at the moment. But you're probably sitting at the moment, and there's a pair of bones what you can probably sit on, and there's your feet may be on the ground. You might be listening to this and walking around, and you're touching the ground. So we're always in contact with the ground somehow. It's just noticing and observing, and an easier way to do this on here, which is, and we've all got a heart. So if you think about connections between various parts of your body, I want to use the heart for example, and we have lots of different conduits. You can choose whatever conduit it is. It might be bones, muscles, just thoughts, energy, but you can connect your heart to your toes and just give that a go and see what happens. And it might be via bones, maybe via muscles, whatever you want to do. It's your choice. And just connect your heart to your toes and see how that goes. So you can do this when you get really angry. Just think, where's my heart? I've got my heart. And connect to my toes. And do it again and connect your heart to your fingers. Same sort of route. You might want to use a different sort of thing. You might not want to use muscles this time instead of bones. It's your choice. Doesn't matter. And connect your heart to your toes. And connect your heart to your fingers. Connect your heart to your head. Connect your heart to your bottom. Wherever you want to go, connect your heart to your elbows. But whatever you're doing, you're just connecting your body to everywhere. So connect your heart to every part of your body and every organ in your body. You might not know where some are, so you can make it up. But as long as that intention's there, your body knows what to do. And just enjoy that for a moment. And connect your heart to what you see. Connect your heart to what's behind you. Connect your heart to your loved ones. Connect your heart to your pets. Connect your heart to your house. And doing this, you might notice you've really gone quiet. Well, there's another part to this, is actually being present and doing this present. Because these thoughts may have lingered started now, but lingered into the past. So it's connecting your heart to your toes and letting that thought go. Connect your heart to your toes and letting that thought go. And connect your heart to your body and let the thought go. And allow these thoughts to get faster and faster and faster. So they become non-verbal. And then the energy to create the non-verbal thought. So you just think about the energy of it. So you're just tingling, you're just firing everywhere. You're connecting to absolutely everything. And then instead of the energy, just the thought about connecting your heart to your toes and just letting that thought go. Connecting that thought to connecting to the world. And just do this when you really get angry, so you can come back to balance. And if you still need to be in the fight and flight, be in the fight and flight, because at least you're making the choice now. Just enjoy the quiet. Let it go. Whatever the thought is, whatever the energy is, just let it go. And if you have any pain anywhere, just notice it and let it go. Connect your heart to your toes and go via the pain and let it all go. And once you're in this state, it's quite awkward when you first learn how to do this, is actually to now have this thought in activity. Because as soon as you step away, you'll go back to your old ways. That's fine, because it only takes a nanosecond to get this state. It's only a thought. A thought to be present, a thought to be connected to the world. A thought. I'll give you a few moments and then we'll start talking again.
That's incredibly powerful. And that is the power of the Alexander. So I'm so grateful that Alexander's back on the podcast. So that's bringing the mind, but connecting it with the body to make such an instant and profound difference, John.
Yeah, thank you.
And that speaks to the fact that we can, therefore, with a thought, change our bodies. And you gave the example of being in the ambulance. And when I had a knee replacement a few years ago, Gary Ramsey generously offered me his time over a Zoom because I could not lift my right leg off the bed. And you have to do these really hectic exercises. I literally couldn't lift my leg because they do these horrific things to your muscles to put the prosthesis in. And Gary just said, just engage your mind and imagine your leg lifting up, Antoinette. And I was like, I mean, my mind was doing that, but at the same time, my mind was going, yeah, I'm sure. I tell you right now, my leg lifted up, and I couldn't even lift it up 1 millimeter before that. And I've actually used Alexander Gary brought to stop anaphylactic reactions in their throes. So this is exceptionally powerful, but it requires doing this body connection, whether the way you've just described it.
Yes, I've used it quite a few times, that method, and it really, really works. People really become calm. And then
So the interesting thing is you did it on me yesterday, sorry to interrupt, and it was exceptionally powerful to the point that I couldn't move. I felt like a statue. But I had to get on with my day, and then I went, actually even pendulum swung more into the internal chaos, which was fascinating. But we can actually in a nanosecond bring ourselves back. Yeah. It's very powerful, this.
Yeah. So when I work with somebody, I do it more personalized, like I did with you yesterday, because then allows me to connect to you, which sometimes feels a bit wacky, but I can feel people's pain. Even after, like I text you after and said, "What you doing with your back?"
Yeah, you said to me, let's get rid of the stabbing in your back. That's why you've got shoulder pain. And so you also operate very much on that kind of quantum level. So it's very hard to impress me. I'm one of those people, Loretta will tell you, and I'm always honest on this podcast about my own faults. I am a person who thinks I know everything. And I always think there isn't much more that I can learn or that can come to me that will help me on my journey. And what you brought was amazing and wow, and it blew me away.
Thank you.
And when I shared it with Loretta, she was, yes, let's do this. So maybe the best thing for people to do is to jump onto your website to just book a session with you. Your prices seem very, very reasonable to me. You are UK based and you have a strong currency, but the price you mentioned to me seems very affordable, even to people with weak currencies. And are you offering any online courses or classes or workshops, John, where you could maybe take people through this?
I'm just starting at the moment. I'm a few weeks away from releasing them. So I'll be doing some videos, and which you can get online and pay for. I don't know how much they're going to cost at the moment, but I'll be doing an 8-week season of, I think it's 16 videos I'm planning. So there'll be short ones with particular aspects of what I'm going to talk about, which I haven't decided on yet. We'll also do online one-to-ones and face-to-face one-to-ones. And
I can tell listeners from, sorry, I'm really interrupting a lot, but I hope it's helpful. I can tell listeners from yesterday, I mean, we're in different parts of the world, John and I, and what he did with me over this computer was as powerful as any person I've been with physically. So don't let the distance put you off. John, is there anything else you want to do you want to add or say or tell us anything you think intuitively you feel people, because it's not easy to describe this journey. That's what Gary and I talked about all the time, is because Alexander people like Gary and like you, Gary had already been 25 years practicing Alexander when he got diagnosed with that first cancer. So people go, how could Gary just have dropped into peace and not freaked out, because he had been practicing this his whole life? And you've practiced it, I think, since 2015 or something. You said it's a long time. So it's about, if in your clips, if the gold would be if you can bring to people a day to, firstly the knowledge, then the awareness, and a day-to-day practice that we can do, because Alexander's fast. That's the other thing. When Loretta and I did Gary Ramsey's, he did a free course fast because we were going to put out workshops, but he passed away sadly.
Yeah.
And Loretta always practices what she learns. Unlike me, I can be quite lazy. And Loretta she practices it all the time now. And the amazing thing about this Alexander stuff, really amazing, is you can do it while you're exercising. You can do it while you're cooking. You can do it when you're sitting in your chair and working. You don't have to stop everything. There is a place for stopping everything to do it. You can do it while you're doing, I talked about static back a lot on this podcast, and John now tells me that's actually an Alexander technique.
Yes.
So, and that is, Loretta and I will both vouch for the fact that we go on and on about static back, because once again, she tested it. Because it's so simple. We all think this cannot do the job Antoinette and Loretta say. But I promise you, static back combined with Alexander is the most powerful way to get yourself back to yourself, to your real self. Am I right, John?
Yes, you are. Yeah. And I don't know it enough, but it does. All my clients go on the table. Even though I might not talk about it, but I do work them in that semi-supine.
But when you say supine, so static back, it doesn't matter what we call it. It's lying on your back
with your knees
and with your legs at right angles.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Your knees. Oh, okay. And with your arms out to the side, is that right?
I'm normally on the hands on the belly, but you can put them on the side, and some books under your head. So you raise your neck slightly, so something to lie on.
So what is the purpose of that position, and why does it bring us into alignment?
Because a lot of us have craned necks, so the comfortable position for the head, your head is farther forward than the floor. So you put enough books on so it's comfortable. And when I work with somebody, the books go up and down as I work with them, because I know the head's not aligned. The head's not quite right, so I go back to the head and then adjust the height. So I'll keep adjusting the head.
But the whole point of this alignment is to bring the spine into alignment, and therefore the nervous system, am I right? And this joint at the top of the neck floats up. Is that correct? So that creates a...
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, because it's all about the head neck joint, where everything flows through. Well, that's another thing to talk about. I was going to talk about a little bit of a mention. I worked with somebody. I can't remember what I did. I've done it a few times actually. I remember 3 runners on different occasions, and they chatted, and I suggested something. Sorry, I can't remember what I suggested, and then they came back a couple of weeks later. I've been running and I've been able to get to 10. I've got the wall. The runners have a wall where they just hit the pain starts 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, depends who they are. And they've all said, after working with me, that they went through the pain wall without noticing it. And then the next pain wall they have is 2 days later, when they wake up and they're in pain because of the running. And they never had that either. So, and I don't know what, by the way, I don't know what I did, but I just helped them. It was probably something to do with the legs and how they move and where the joints are. So
John, this is huge, because, sorry, what you did with me yesterday. So when I sit, I get back pain, lower back pain. I get all kinds of pain just because of the way my body is. And yesterday you had me sitting like in a position where normally I'm in pain when I sit at my computer. That's why I resisted a lot. And yet I was sitting there for I don't know how long, and there wasn't an iota of pain. And it was exactly the same with my knee replacement story, is that a knee replacement is agonizing. It's probably the most painful thing you can ever do to your body. But when Gary did that, it's just lifted up, and the pain. So it also is a pain management thing. It's very powerful, this. So maybe you can even record when you've recorded some short clips, we can maybe even put 1 or 2 of them out on our podcast about how to practically take people through this step by step.
Yes, okay. Yeah, that'll be fine. And I think that's it, yeah, because this was supposed to be in 20 minutes. I'm now 44 minutes in.
Yeah, but the thing is about flow and life, whether it's podcasting or what you're talking about, is what needs to be said, and what comes through, comes through. And we did want to do 20 minutes, but these things are not that simple to articulate in a very short time. So, hopefully it was a valuable 45 minutes.
Yes.
And thank you, John. It was an absolute privilege. So thank you for showing up, and your energy and your voice and everything you bring is astounding. Grateful we connected.
Thank you.